Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Lore, and before we begin today, I'd like to make a shout out to Ares' channel for allowing me to use his music, and I'd like a shout out for the Discord chat. Feel free to join in the link in the description below or in the channel header. And now, before we begin today, so a few videos that are planned on coming up. So far we have the Hero of Kvatch and the Skull. Those are going to be community videos, community recommended videos that are coming up. This is coming up today because I was already planning on working on it before I got those recommendations. So this is obviously what's coming out first. So it might be a relatively short video today, or shorter compared to the last few videos that have been coming out. This is something that doesn't have a lot of info on, but really struck my interest. So with that being said, I don't think there's any other news out there. I'm working on the new project for a series. It's going to be a lore series. I'm working on that, and that should be coming up relatively soon. I don't know exactly when, but it should be coming soon. I haven't had time to gather all the images and the pictures for the actual video itself. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about the Orcish settlement of Mor Khazgur. So get a little bit of background. So most of the settlements of Orcish settlements in Skyrim, those strongholds I found, I assumed came after the third Orsinium was destroyed, and in the third era, and so I assumed that the orcs that migrated to Skyrim made these strongholds, when in fact I guess the strongholds were made before then, and Mor Khazgur is one of those exceptions. It was not founded in the third or fourth era. It was actually founded way back in the Morethic era. So that's what really struck out to me the most. I've always been interested in the Orcish settlements. The orcs are an interesting race to me. They struggle and try to prove that they belong among the races of Tamriel, yet always seem to get picked on and bullied, which is always why I found it fascinating that the Empire takes special consideration when it comes to the orcs, and they have legions stationed to go protect the orcs. And actually currently in the fourth era, in the newest Orsinium, there is a legion that is stationed in Orsinium, in the fourth rendition of Orsinium, protecting the settlement. So that I always found interesting. So Mor Khazgur is historically an Orcish stronghold found deep within the reach of the province of Skyrim. Mor Khazgur has been the epicenter of Orcish culture since the Morethic era, but similar to the Kingdom of Orsinium, it has been sacked constantly by their neighbors. So, Mor Khazgur is situated along the northern border of the Reach, near the region of Hafingr in Skyrim, which is Solitude, and somewhat close to the provincial borders between High Rock and Hrothgar. The entrance of the Khazgur stronghold is to the north, with a path leading into Hafingr and the western woodlands. In the middle of the stronghold is the chieftain's longhouse, where the local orcs had lived in Mor Khazgur. All along the wooden walls were different towers that overlooked the Reach countryside, and another looking over the stronghold. Continuing the path in Mor Khazgur leads it leads to the Orcilium mine shaft, to which the orcs used as their primary source of income. The entrance of the mine is located above and behind the longhouse. Now, way back in the Morethic era, the original Mor Khazgur was built during this time deep within the Jurak Mountains of the Reach. The city-state has preceded the original Orsinium by several years before the orcs were driven out of Hammerfell. However, Mor Khazgur would be sacked by their neighbors countless times, resurfacing every single time, only to be destroyed every single time. Now, the history of Mor Khazgur is largely unknown, but it was a significant settlement likely connecting the orcs of ancient Skyrim and the orcs of the Hrothgarian Mountains. Now, it's interesting too, we don't know which neighbors it means by this. It could be the Bretons, or it could have been the elves that were situated in Hammerfell at the time. I believe the Red Guards haven't gotten here at this time, so it would probably most likely be the elves. So, during the second era, there's nothing with the first era. So, during the second era, during the interregnum period of 583 of the second era, Mor Khazgur was abandoned by the orcs and claimed by the Circle of Champions, an enclave of gladiators that utilized the ruins throughout Tamriel as their personal battleground. Now, Mor Khazgur had already been the site of various battles during the second era, which prompted its abandonment. Many gladiators had traveled to the ruins of Mor Khazgur to partake in battles such as capture the flag and death matches. This would remain so for several years until the settlement was eventually abandoned again, along with the Circle of Champions and the battlegrounds. Now fast forward into the 4th era. During the Skyrim Civil War in the 201 of the 4th era, Mor Khazgur was rebuilt and had been ruled by Chief Larak, where the stronghold was primarily used to mine Orkilium in the nearby mining site. Now, with the sack of Orsinium during the 4th era, many Orcish clans were forced to migrate east and south, where many of the clans established newer settlements. The 4th Orsinium was built somewhere between Hammerfell and Skyrim, in mostly Hammerfell, while other strongholds such as Largash, Bur, and Dushnik Yal were built in Skyrim. Now, Mor Khazgur was rebuilt once again with the arrival of the orcs, though it had lost its significance it had and held during the Merethic and Second eras. The settlement had thrived amidst the Reach. So it's interesting to note that the settlement already existed. It was a relatively small settlement, but it was thanks to the orcs that left the 3rd rendition of Orsinium, the settlement would eventually be rebuilt and bigger than ever. It's still relatively small, as you can see it in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, but it's still something worthy of note because I always liked finding settlements in Skyrim and going around and finding towns, villages, cities, and everything like that, and being able to find other strongholds and other settlements that weren't necessarily of Nord Foundation. It was interesting to note. That being said, it would be cool to see that in the next Elder Scrolls game. I would love to see a 4th rendition of Orsinium in the next Elder Scrolls, assuming it takes place in either High Rock or Hammerfell. I'd like to think it's going to be both. It would make the most sense to me, at least, for it to be both. Bigger engine, bigger council, or better council, so other than that, I can assume that with a bigger council, you'll try to include as much as possible. Other than that, that is all we have on the settlement. The settlement itself is still relatively small. But other than that, there's not too much else. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments below for future topics. Like I said, I got the 2 in the making at the beginning of the video. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It ended up being a little bit longer than I thought it would be. But I really enjoy these Orcish settlements, and if you guys want me to go over the other ones, I don't know how long of videos they'll necessarily be, but I typically enjoy it, and I already did the video on Orsinium, so I was planning on doing a in-depth look on the orcs themselves and seeing why there's so much hatred between them and the other races. But we all know it's because many fear the orcs' ability to rise up and their talent at fighting, and because of the racism that exists in Skyrim and in Tamriel. If anything, it'd be the Bretons from High Rock that probably have the most racism against the orcs, but regardless of which, we're getting sidetracked. Basically, this video is going to be looking in depth of why there is so much hatred, and going past further than simple explanations that we have, and see if there's anything deeper hidden within the lore that we might not have gazed into, or might have a couple times. But regardless of which, I wanna do that. The orcs have always been an interesting race of mine. They're my second favorite to play as, behind the Khajiit, the orcs, then the Nords. But other than that, yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Oh, and actually we have 3 recommended community videos, because there is someone who wanted me to do something. I don't know if I'm going to find it on my list. I wrote it down in my notebook, but for the sake of the video, I'll just end it here. But we have 3 recommended community topics. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.